Jack Sullivan was not the type of man who followed rules. He had been a soldier once, in places where orders kept men alive. But now, out in the Nevada desert, orders felt more like chains. And one order had followed him all his life: never go near Grid 17. People in town whispered about it. Truck drivers swore they saw lights in the sky. Hunters said the ground hummed at night. The government built fences, set up warning signs, and sent patrols with drones. No maps showed it. No cameras worked near it. To most, it was a ghost story. To Jack, it became personal. His younger brother, Ryan, vanished near Grid 17 2 weeks ago. The police wrote it off as a runaway. The military denied any operation. But last night, Jack received a strange signal on Ryan's old radio frequency. Only Ryan used that code. Only Ryan could have sent it. Jack drove into the desert before dawn, headlights off, tires crunching over the dry earth. The air was sharp and cold. His pickup truck rattled as he followed the signal deeper into land no man was meant to cross. The first sign of trouble came with the road itself. The sand turned black. Not like burnt rock, but like melted glass. Long lines of it stretched across the desert, as if something hot had carved through the ground. Jack slowed his truck and touched the glass with his boot. Warm. Too warm for the night air. He kept driving. The fences appeared next. High, metal, twisted with barbed wire. Every 50 feet, a sign: no entry. Trespassers will disappear. Not prosecuted. Not fined. Just disappear. The words were scratched in English, but the paint looked old, faded, like the signs had been there longer than the government itself. Jack laughed under his breath. Disappear, huh? Guess I'll test that theory. He cut through the fence with bolt cutters. Sparks snapped in the dark. The moment he stepped inside, his radio buzzed again. Ryan's code. Stronger now. Closer. Grid 17 was silent, but not dead. The ground vibrated. The air seemed to hum. Jack's flashlight beam shook as he walked, pointing at strange shapes rising from the sand. Some looked like rocks, others like metal towers half buried in the earth. They weren't natural. And they weren't built by human hands. Then he saw it: an old military jeep, burned black, its wheels melted into the sand. Jack rushed to it, heart pounding. Inside, lying on the seat, was a chain of dog tags. Ryan's name was stamped into the metal. Jack clenched them in his fist. His brother had been here. Recently. But before he could search further, a sharp sound cut the air. A drone. It flew low, scanning with a red beam. Jack dove under the jeep, holding his breath. The beam passed over him once, twice. Then the drone flew away into the darkness. He stayed frozen until the hum disappeared. When he finally crawled out, his boots shook against the ground. Not from fear but from the earth itself. The sand shifted under him, sliding as though the desert was alive. And then it opened. Jack fell. The ground split wide, dropping him into blackness. His flashlight smashed against metal, sparking before it went dark. He hit hard, rolling down a slope before crashing on a flat surface. Dust filled his lungs. Pain throbbed in his ribs. Slowly, he lifted his head. It was not a cave. Not dirt. Not stone. He was inside something vast. Something built. The walls glowed faintly, covered in lines of silver light that pulsed like veins. Machines stood tall in the shadows: towers, wires, shapes that twisted in ways no human engineer would design. The air smelled sharp, metallic, almost electric. Jack staggered to his feet. He shouted. His voice echoed far, bouncing off walls he could not see. The chamber stretched endlessly in every direction. He tried to climb back to the surface, but the hole above him had already sealed shut. Smooth metal where sand had been. No way out. Jack's chest tightened. But then, out of the silence, came a sound. A voice. It was not human. It did not echo. It spoke directly into his mind. Human detected. Unauthorized entry. Test will begin. Jack froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. Who's there? He shouted. The voice did not answer. Instead, the floor beneath him lit up, lines of light racing outward like a circuit board coming alive. Doors opened in the walls, doors that had not been there seconds before. Jack stepped back. Something moved inside the darkness of those doors. Slow. Heavy. Mechanical. His hand went for the knife on his belt, the only weapon he had left. He raised it, breathing hard. Whatever was in those shadows was coming for him. And it wasn't human. The last thought in Jack's mind before the lights blazed brighter was of his brother. Ryan had been here. Ryan had seen this place. And maybe Ryan never got out. But Jack wasn't Ryan. Jack wasn't going to die in the dark. Jack stood frozen as the doors slid open around him. The sound of metal grinding echoed through the chamber. A low rumble shook the floor. Then the light spread further, revealing a corridor that seemed alive, its walls shifting like they were breathing. Jack gripped his knife tighter. He had faced combat before, but nothing like this. The air felt charged, heavy with energy, like the moment before lightning struck. A voice came again, inside his mind. Test 1. Survival. Jack's pulse quickened. Survival. Against what? From the nearest doorway, a shape emerged. It walked on 4 sharp legs, its body long and thin, almost insect-like. Its head spun in circles, glowing red. The thing wasn't alive. It was a machine. A machine built for hunting. Jack stepped back, every muscle tense. The creature's legs stabbed the ground with metallic clicks. Sparks lit under its claws. Then, without warning, it leapt. Jack rolled across the floor. The machine slammed into the ground where he had been standing, metal legs slicing the air. Jack scrambled to his feet, knife ready. He slashed as the machine lunged again. His blade scraped across its body, barely leaving a mark. The thing hissed, a high-pitched screech that tore into his ears. Jack's eyes darted across the room. No guns. No cover. Nothing but walls of glowing metal. He ran. The corridor twisted, shifting as he moved. Walls slid, closing behind him. The path ahead stretched longer, bending into sharp angles. The place wasn't fixed, it was changing, building a maze around him. The machine chased him, claws sparking with every strike against the floor. Jack sprinted, lungs burning, until he spotted a narrow gap between 2 walls. He dove inside, pressing himself flat. The machine stabbed at the gap, its legs slashing inches from his face. But the wall shifted again, sealing the opening shut. The machine was cut off. Jack gasped for air. He touched his ribs where he had fallen earlier. Pain shot through him, but he forced himself forward. The corridor stretched ahead, glowing brighter. He turned a corner and froze. A man stood there. Dirty clothes. Hollow eyes. Beard down to his chest. The stranger raised his hand slowly. "Don't move," the man whispered. "It hears everything." Jack lowered his knife only an inch. "Who the hell are you?" The man glanced nervously at the ceiling. "Name's Robert. Been stuck here, a long time." His voice cracked, dry as dust. Jack frowned. "How long?" Robert's eyes flicked to the glowing walls. "Years. Maybe decades. Time doesn't work right down here. Some of us came in the 70s. Some in the 90s. Nobody gets out." Jack shook his head. "Impossible. You'd be dead by now. Robert let out a hollow laugh. Yeah, I thought so too. But this place keeps us alive. Not for us. For the tests. Jack's grip on his knife tightened. How many of you? Robert hesitated. His voice dropped. Not enough anymore. The corridor behind them rumbled. The machine's screech echoed through the maze. Robert's eyes widened. It found us. Move. They ran. The maze shifted with every step, walls sliding, floors opening and closing. The place felt alive, like it wanted to trap them. The machine's claws hammered behind them, growing louder. Jack spotted a door ahead and shoved it open. Inside was a larger chamber, dim, full of strange machines, their shapes twisting like pipes and ribs. At the center sat 3 more survivors, a woman in a torn lab coat, an older man with gray hair, and a boy no older than 10. The boy stared at Jack with wide, fearful eyes. The woman stood quickly. Who is he? Robert shut the door behind them. Another one. Fresh. Jack stepped inside, scanning the room. His voice was sharp. What is this place? The older man looked at him with tired eyes. A prison. But not for us. We're just test subjects. Before Jack could question further, the walls pulsed with light. The voice filled the room again, cold and clear. Observation, human adaptation exceeds projection. Begin phase 2. The survivors flinched. Robert cursed under his breath. Jack glared at the ceiling. What do you want from us? The voice answered without emotion. Not want. Measure. Study. Conclude. The chamber shifted. Metal walls slid back, revealing new corridors stretching in every direction. The floor rumbled beneath them. The boy clung to the woman's arm, trembling. Robert whispered, "It's starting again." Jack faced the others. Listen. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't understand us. That's why it keeps testing. That means we've got an advantage. The woman shook her head. We've tried everything. Fighting, hiding, running. No one escapes. Jack's eyes hardened. Then you haven't tried hard enough. The machine's screech echoed closer, louder, as if multiple creatures were moving now. Jack stepped forward, knife in hand. His voice was steady. You said it's a prison. But every prison has a weak spot. We find it, we hit it, we get out. Robert stared at him like he was mad. You don't get it? The maze shifts because it's alive. It learns from us. The more we resist, the harder it becomes. Jack smirked. Then let's give it something it's never seen before. The lights pulsed again. The voice returned, colder this time. Phase 2 begins. Evaluate human cooperation under stress. The doors slammed shut. A new section of the maze unfolded. And somewhere in that shifting metal darkness, more machines woke up. Jack tightened his grip on his knife. His heart raced, but his eyes were sharp. Let's move, he said. This thing wants to study humanity. Then it's about to learn the hard way. The walls groaned as the maze shifted again. Metal slammed against metal, corridors twisting into new shapes. The ground shook so hard the boy cried out and clung to the woman's arm. Jack steadied himself, knife tight in his hand. His eyes moved across the survivors: Robert, the scientist woman, the gray-haired man, the terrified boy. They looked beaten, hopeless. But Jack's jaw tightened. He wasn't about to let some machine decide when humanity gave up. The voice filled the chamber again, cold and sharp. Phase 2. Cooperation evaluation begins. Robert cursed under his breath. This is when it separates us. Forces us into choices. We've seen it before. Jack narrowed his eyes. Choices. The older man's voice was flat. Sacrifice. It traps one of us so the others can move. We argue, we fight, and in the end someone dies. The woman looked away, shame heavy in her eyes. That's the point. It studies how we turn on each other. Jack's grip tightened on his knife. Then we don't play its game. The corridor opened ahead, lights flickering in long lines. The group stepped carefully, every sound echoing like a warning. Jack led the way, muscles coiled, eyes sharp. At the end of the hall, the path split in two. One way glowed blue. The other glowed red. The voice returned. Rule, only one path leads to safety. Only one human per path. Robert shook his head. I told you. It forces us apart. The boy whimpered. The woman pulled him close. I'm not leaving him. Jack studied the walls. He noticed small seams, like panels that slid open. He thought of the machines that hunted them. A trap. A test. He smiled bitterly. It wants us to split. So we don't. Robert frowned. We can't disobey it. The walls will close. Jack turned, voice sharp. Every prison has rules. But rules are made to break. The walls rumbled, pressuring them forward. Jack stepped up, slamming his fist against the glowing red wall. It hummed, then shifted slightly under his touch. See, he muttered. It reacts. He slammed his knife into the seam and pried. Sparks flew. The light flickered. The wall groaned like it was alive. Then, with a sharp snap, the panel cracked open, exposing wires that glowed like veins. The others stared in shock. Robert whispered, "No one ever tried that." Jack smirked. "That's the problem. You've been playing by its rules. Humans win because we cheat." He ripped out the wires. The lights flickered wildly, alarms blaring in a strange alien tone. The maze shuddered as if in pain. The voice came again, louder, distorted. Error. Human behavior, unpredictable. Adjusting. The walls shook violently. From the blue corridor, two machines crawled out, their legs stabbing into the floor with metallic screeches. Jack raised his knife. Now we fight. The first machine lunged. Jack dodged, dragging it past him, then slammed his knife into the gap between its plates. Sparks shot across his arm. The machine shrieked, flailing. He ripped the blade free, metal screeching as the thing collapsed in sparks. The boy's eyes widened. He whispered, "He killed it?" The second machine charged at the group. Robert panicked, shoving the boy aside, but Jack stepped in front. He grabbed a broken panel from the wall and swung it like a shield. The machine's claws slammed into it, sparks flying. Jack shoved hard, driving the metal panel into its sensors. The creature screeched, stumbling. Robert grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and smashed it down, crushing the machine's leg. Together they brought it down in a storm of sparks and metal. The maze fell silent. Smoke drifted through the corridor. The survivors stared at Jack, breathing hard. For the first time, there was a spark of something new in their eyes. Hope. The woman whispered, "You fought it, and won." Jack wiped blood from his lip and smiled grimly. "Yeah. Because it doesn't know us. It doesn't know humans fight dirty." The voice returned, crackling, almost angry. Observation: humans adapt. Conclusion: escalate parameters. The walls shifted violently. Corridors twisted into new forms. Entire sections collapsed, sealing behind them. New paths opened, darker, narrower, glowing with strange green light. Robert looked around in fear. "You made it angry. Now it will send more." Jack's jaw tightened. "Good. Let it. The more it shows, the more we learn." The boy tugged on his sleeve. But what if we can't win?" Jack knelt, looking him straight in the eye. His voice was steady. Listen to me. Machines follow patterns. Humans don't. That's why we win. The boy nodded, clutching his arm, fear easing just a little. They pressed deeper into the maze. At every corner, Jack studied the walls, searching for weaknesses. He marked paths with scratches of his knife. He counted the timing of the shifting doors. Slowly, he began to see it. A rhythm. A pattern. The maze wasn't random. It was a system. And systems could be broken. He whispered to Robert, "It's like a game of chess. It moves, we move. But it doesn't expect us to flip the board." Robert stared at him. "You think we can outsmart it?" Jack's lips curled into a grin. "We're human. Outsmarting the impossible is what we do." They entered a wide chamber. The ceiling stretched high, glowing faintly with silver lines. In the center stood three machines, larger than the others. Their eyes glowed red, their bodies armored and heavy. The voice returned, louder than ever. Phase 3. Combat evaluation. Only strongest survive. The survivors backed away in terror. The boy clutched the woman's arm. Robert muttered a prayer. But Jack stepped forward, knife in hand, eyes sharp. "Good," he said quietly. "Because I'm done running." The machines advanced, claws sparking. Jack's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at him to flee. But he tightened his grip, set his stance, and smiled grimly. "Let's show this thing," he muttered, "why humanity doesn't quit." And then he charged. Jack's knife dripped with sparks as the last machine fell, screeching until its red light faded. He stood over it, chest heaving, body bruised but alive. The survivors stared at him in silence. No one had ever taken down one of the larger machines before. Robert looked shocked. The woman covered her mouth. The boy's eyes glowed with something Jack hadn't seen since arriving here. Belief. But the maze wasn't finished. The walls pulsed brighter than ever, silver veins throbbing like a heartbeat. The ground rumbled so violently dust rained from the ceiling. Then the voice returned, louder, but with a strange etch. "Warning. Containment compromised. Human interference has accelerated breach." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Containment? Breach? What are you talking about?" The voice repeated, broken, almost glitching. "Containment, breached. Primary threat awakening." The survivors exchanged fearful looks. Robert's face went pale. "No. It can't be." Jack turned on him. "What do you know?" Robert swallowed hard. "This AI, it's not the enemy. It's the warden. This place isn't built to test us. It's built to hold something worse." The boy clung to the woman. "What's worse than the machines?" Robert's voice shook. "The thing they're guarding." The chamber trembled as a deep sound echoed through the maze. Not metal. Not mechanical. A roar. Low, guttural, inhuman. The woman's face drained of color. "It's awake." Jack tightened his grip on his knife. "Good. Then let's kill it." Robert shook his head violently. "You don't understand. We're ants compared to it. The machines, the tests, they were never meant for us. They were practice. Distractions. The real prisoner is something that doesn't belong on this planet." The older man finally spoke, his voice hollow. "An alien. Buried here before humans even walked the earth." The ground split open at the far end of the chamber. A massive door, older than the maze itself, groaned as it slid open. Darkness poured from the gap, thick and suffocating. Then something moved inside. Jack braced himself. At first, he thought it was smoke, but no, it was alive. A shape shifting, twisting, massive. Limbs too long, skin glistening black like oil. Its eyes burned with pale green fire. The roar came again, shaking the walls, forcing dust to rain from above. The boy screamed. The woman pulled him close. Robert stumbled backward. Jack stayed firm. "That's it? That's what you've been hiding?" The voice echoed again, weaker now, as if struggling to hold itself together. "Containment unit failing. Entity designated, apex predator. Species extinction event probability, 99%. Jack's jaw clenched. "Not if I stop it." The creature stepped fully into the chamber. It was massive, taller than any machine, body twisting like it wasn't bound by bone. Its claws dug into the floor, leaving black burns where it touched. When it looked at Jack, he felt the weight of its gaze press against his skull. It spoke not in words, but in a wave of sound that rattled inside their heads. "Humans. Error of evolution. Correction begins now." Robert fell to his knees, clutching his head. The woman cried out in pain. Even the boy screamed, blood dripping from his nose. Jack stumbled but forced himself to stand tall. His voice came out rough, but steady. "You think you can wipe us out? Then you'll find out the hard way we don't go down easy." The creature tilted its head, almost amused. Then it lunged. The fight was chaos. The survivors scattered as the beast's claws tore through walls like paper. Jack dove aside, rolling to his feet. He grabbed a broken piece of machine and hurled it, striking the creature's shoulder. It barely noticed. The AI's voice returned, glitching, desperate. "Core reactor unstable. Destruction of facility required. Manual trigger necessary." Jack shouted, "Where?" "Central chamber. Only manual activation. Sacrifice required." Jack's eyes flicked to the survivors. Robert was dragging the boy away. The woman was trying to shield them both. The older man leaned against the wall, too weak to move fast. If the alien escaped this place, it wouldn't just kill them, it would destroy the world. Jack made his choice. He turned to Robert. "Get them to the surface. Find a way out through the shifting corridors. If you see another opening, you take it." Robert shook his head. "You're insane. You can't fight that thing alone." Jack smirked. "Not planning to. I'm planning to bury it." Before anyone could argue, Jack sprinted toward the beast. He shouted, drawing its attention. The alien roared, charging at him with claws raised. Jack slid under its strike, rolling to his feet near the far wall. "Come on, you ugly bastard," he yelled. The AI spoke again, voice flickering. "Manual trigger located behind containment core. Hurry." Jack ran. The alien followed, smashing walls, sending metal raining down around him. The ground shook with every step it took. He burst into the central chamber. The core glowed in the center, an enormous sphere of energy, pulsing with light. It hummed so loud Jack felt it in his bones. Panels lined the floor, filled with alien symbols. "Manual trigger located beneath core," the AI said. "Warning, activation will result in total destruction of facility." Jack smirked through the sweat and blood on his face. "Yeah. That's the idea." The alien burst into the chamber, roaring, eyes blazing. Jack looked back once at the survivors, barely visible in the corridor. The boy stared at him, eyes wide with fear and hope. Jack lifted his knife, pointed it at the creature, and grinned. "They told me not to come here. So I did. And now I'll finish it." The alien lunged. Jack dove for the core. The core chamber blazed with light as Jack hit the floor and rolled to his feet. The energy sphere pulsed above him, humming like a living heart. The air buzzed with static, raising every hair on his skin. Behind him, the alien roared, its voice shaking the walls. It moved like a shadow of nightmares, twisting and bending, claws carving scars into the metal floor. Its green eyes locked on Jack, burning with hunger. The survivors stood frozen at the edge of the chamber. Robert clutched the boy tight. The woman and the older man held each other. They all knew what Jack was about to do. Jack gave them a sharp nod. "Run. Now." Robert shook his head. "You'll be trapped." "That's the point," Jack snapped. "Get him out of here. Humanity has a chance only if this thing stays buried." The boy's voice cracked. "Don't." Jack's face softened for a moment. He crouched down, looking at the boy with steady eyes. "Hey. Listen to me. We're stronger than we look. Remember that. Never forget it." The boy's lip trembled, but he nodded. "Good," Jack whispered. Then he stood tall, knife gleaming in his hand. "Now go." Robert dragged the survivors away, shouting at them to move. Jack turned back to the alien. His heart pounded like a drum, but his voice was steady. "All right, monster. Just you and me." The alien lunged. Jack dove aside as its claws tore through the floor, leaving glowing scars. He slashed with his knife, sparks flying as steel scraped against black flesh. The creature shrieked, more in anger than pain, and swung again. Jack rolled, grabbed a broken pipe from the ground, and jammed it into one of its glowing eyes. The alien howled, thrashing wildly. Jack sprinted toward the core. The AI's broken voice crackled in his head. "Warning, manual trigger requires direct contact. Energy overload imminent." Jack reached the core. The humming sphere pulsed brighter, vibrating the floor. Beneath it, a platform glowed with alien symbols. In the center was a hand-shaped imprint, waiting. The alien screeched and rushed forward, body twisting unnaturally, claws raised for the killing blow. Jack planted his knife in the ground, turned, and smiled through the sweat and blood. "Not today." He slammed his hand onto the trigger. Light exploded. The core flared, energy surging through the chamber like a storm. The alien froze mid-strike, its body convulsing as green fire clashed with white light. Its scream rattled the entire maze, high and furious, shaking the walls until they split. The AI's voice boomed, stronger than ever. "Manual activation confirmed. Facility collapse in progress. Evacuate immediately." Jack held on as the energy surged up his arm, burning through his skin, but he didn't let go. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay standing. The alien fought against the pull, claws scraping toward him. But the core's energy wrapped around its body like chains, dragging it down into the glowing sphere. Its eyes burned brighter, filled with rage. It hissed into Jack's mind one last time. "Human, you cannot win. You are weak." Jack clenched his fist. His voice thundered back. "No. I'm human. That means I never quit." He pushed harder against the trigger. The core erupted. The survivors ran through the twisting corridors, chased by collapsing walls and falling debris. The boy looked back once, tears streaming down his face. "Jack." Robert pulled him forward. "Don't look back. Keep running." The maze groaned like a dying beast, collapsing in on itself. Machines fell silent. Lights shattered. The earth above trembled as if the desert itself was tearing apart. Finally, after what felt like hours, they saw a crack of daylight ahead. They stumbled out into the open desert, gasping, falling onto the sand. Behind them, the ground roared. A blinding explosion tore through the desert, sending shock waves into the sky. Dust and fire blasted upward in a giant column. Then, silence. The ground sealed shut as if nothing had ever been there. Grid 17 was gone. For a long time, none of them spoke. The boy clutched the dog tags Jack had left with him before the fight. His small hands trembled as he pressed them to his chest. Robert finally whispered, voice raw. He did it. He buried it. The woman wiped tears from her face. He saved us, he saved everyone. The boy lifted the dog tags, staring at the name stamped into the metal. His voice was soft but firm. Jack Sullivan. Days later, in a military outpost far from the desert, a technician sat at a console. His equipment buzzed, picking up faint static. Then, through the noise, a voice crackled across the radio. A rough, steady voice. Familiar. If you're hearing this, we're not alone. But we're not weak. Remember that. The technician froze, staring at the screen. The signal cut off. Somewhere out there, in the ruins of Grid 17, Jack Sullivan's voice still lived.